Hello everyone. Tonight we'll step into a world darker and more brutal than anything you've ever imagined, where dreams are crushed under the weight of poverty, violence, and relentless oppression. This is the life of Tudor peasants, people who toiled to exhaustion, lived in filth and disease, and were constantly threatened by imminent death. Forget romantic images of palaces or festivals. The painful truth is, you might not survive even a week in this harsh world. Before you lean back and get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you genuinely enjoy the content I share, and leave a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's fascinating to see people following from all over the world. Now, turn off the lights, maybe switch on a fan for some background noise, and let's dive into tonight's journey together. Ready? Because when you open your eyes tonight, you're no longer in the modern world. You just opened your eyes one morning in 1533, a random point in time, amid plague, poverty, and woolen underwear. You're a peasant, not the chill veggie garden, Instagram kind, the real kind, missing teeth, head lice, back curved like the grim reaper's scythe you serve daily. Good news, you're alive. Bad news, you're so poor, even fleas leave because there's nothing left to suck. The day starts when the church bell rings, not inviting you to breakfast, but reminding you that you owe God another unpaid day of labor. You wake in a thatched hut, walls of mud mixed with cow dung, no windows, no tiled floor, and definitely no memory foam mattress. Instead, a pile of prickly, rotting, damp straw, alive in the sense that it hosts an entire insect ecosystem. Your blanket is a coarse wool sheet, unwashed since last year, black as coal, heavy as the sow, sleeping on you, and smelling like someone boiled turnips in sweat and dried it. You shiver, not from emotion, but from cold. Wind cuts through wall cracks like a razor on flesh. You're 22. By Tudor standards, you're nearly expired. Your knees crack like the village gate in a storm. Your spine, bent and grinding like a wooden cartwheel about to snap. You try to sit up, take a deep breath, and instantly regret it. The air in the hut is a fragrant blend of mold, chicken urine, human sweat, half-burnt wood smoke, and the faint whiff of a rat that died under your bed last week. You search for shoes. Oh wait, you don't have any. You slide bare feet onto the ground, which is either soggy like a rice paddy after rain, or dry, cracked, and caked with chicken dung-flavored brittle. You step out of the straw, like a defeated soldier barely surviving battle, except no one welcomes you, and you'll do this every day until you die. In the hut, your parents, wife, 3 kids, a crazy aunt, and at least 2 goats share the space. No partitions, no curtains, no secrets. Every snore is a live reality show. Every fart is a tempest of aromas. That's if you're lucky. If not, you're also sharing with a mystery cousin, a sick pig, and an organized flea colony. Each morning is a survival test. Each movement is a gamble with weather, insects, and dung. What awaits you today? The answer: more work than you can handle, less food than you need, and a new pain somewhere in your body. So why are you still alive? Well, you're not rich enough to die early, and God hasn't called you back. Maybe he doesn't want to touch you while you smell like that. But anyway, congratulations. You've entered Tudor England, a world where you'll work yourself to death, starve while working, and still be forced to smile for God, the landlord, and the tax collector. And this is just the morning. You imagine sleeping on soft, golden, harvest-scented straw. Wrong. Your straw is the cheapest kind, coarse, moldy, matted, like beer mash, mixed with sawdust, gathered from an abandoned horse stall, and spread on the damp ground. After 3 rainy seasons and a family of rats breeding on it, this straw has officially become a bizarre mix of termite nest, insect hive, and half a beetle graveyard. No bed sheets, no mattress, no pillow. Your head rests directly on a straw bundle so hard that each sleep leaves your neck feeling like it was hacked with a blunt axe. Every time you roll over, a cloud of mold dust and insect carcasses rises like a stage effect, except the smell isn't smoke, it's fermented mildew in the breath of time, plus a few live bugs. Your blanket, or rather, the rectangular slab of coarse wool, once had a color close to gray, but now it's a mottled mess of brown, black, yellow, and some green patches that might be mold or goat urine. So, it hasn't been washed, at least not since you learned to walk. and now holds odors with near-perfect fidelity. When it's cold, the blanket retains heat, but in the way a long-dead animal lying on you does, heavy, damp, and making you wonder why you haven't died of suffocation. You pull it over your nose, only to remember, don't breathe through your nose. Under that blanket, it feels like a small ant colony. Your feet itch constantly, maybe from bed bugs, lice falling from the ants sleeping beside you, or just your nerves warning you that your skin is about to be eaten bit by bit. You try scratching, and feel your nails catch something soft, damp, and moving. Best not to scratch again. The bed, if you can call it that, sits directly on the dirt floor. No legs, no frame, no stone base. Last night's rain made mud seep in, and now the straw is wet, smelling like a fermented rat cellar. Rats, actually, have no issue with your bed. They live right beneath, maybe even passing down tales of this prime location as a rodent Airbnb. They occasionally crawl over your feet, leaving test bites. Once you woke to find your toe bleeding, and a rat dead nearby, likely from eating the tar ointment you applied the day before. Loss on both sides. Tudor sleep isn't sleep. It's a state of paralysis, amid smells, cold, itching, and mixed snoring. Around you are the sounds of at least 8 others, most unaware of the concept of silence. There's groaning from toothaches, dry coughing from untreated pneumonia, kids flailing in their sleep and hitting your face, and insects scratching the hut walls as if demanding to bunk with you. In a world where privacy is a luxury, the bed isn't just for sleeping, it's for eating if you're lucky enough to have food. Birthing kids are often born on this straw, and dying because no one can afford to die elsewhere. An old man in the village once lay where you are, quietly dying one night from cold, only noticed the next morning, when the person beside him realized his body was too stiff to roll over. You're lying in that exact spot now. The straw still has a slight dent. You sigh, close your eyes, burrow into the filthy blanket, like a rope tying you to history, hoping one night there won't be rats nibbling your toes, lice crawling into your ears, or someone peeing on the straw because they couldn't make it outside. But that's a distant hope. Reality is, you'll wake up, still on that organic trash pile, and keep living, if you're lucky, because Tudor times don't need you healthy, clean, or happy, just alive enough to work for someone else. And if you collapse on this straw, no matter, someone else will lie there. And the cycle continues, damp, itchy, stinking, and entirely without bed sheets. Morning, Sue just left the straw pile, vaguely called a bed, eyes half open, back aching, like someone beat you with a hoe, and your stomach, more accurately, your bowels, starting to stir in a way that clearly says, nature's calling. But this isn't the relax on a pristine porcelain throne you're used to. No toilet, no bidet, no scented panda-patterned toilet paper. Welcome to the Tudor bathroom, or rather, the lack of one. You haul a wooden bucket behind the hut, trying not to breathe deeply, because you know this bucket has served your whole family for 3 days without being emptied. Inside is a sludgy, warm, lively mix. Lively because something's moving. You don't have time to wonder what. You squat, amid the clucking of nearby chickens and the judgmental stare of a bony cat standing by, as if critiquing your technique. Privacy is a luxury. The bucket sits in the open yard. No walls, no lid, no door. One passerby, and you get a curious glance and a light comment, like, looking like you ate well today, John. If you're a woman, it's worse. You juggle holding your skirt, balancing and preserving dignity. Done? Congrats. Now the climax. You have to dump it. The method? Open the front door, reach out, tip the bucket onto the street, shouting, "Gardez-le," an old French phrase meaning watch out below, but no one listens, and if they do, they can't dodge in time. The result is a man-made stream of human waste, animal dung, and unidentified liquids, quietly flowing down the road like a river from hell. The smell? No need to describe. Just know that one deep whiff could kill your sense of smell for 3 days. In the city, it's worse. People dump straight from second-story windows without warning. You might be strolling, daydreaming about dinner, when a warm shower hits your head. Romantic walks don't exist. If you're lucky enough to live near a public latrine, a makeshift shed over a ditch, you experience communal hygiene. A row of people sitting elbow to elbow, facing a hole. No doors, no dividers, no air freshener. You can chat, discuss crops, even pray, just don't breathe through your nose. Toilet paper? Of course not. People use whatever's at hand: straw, leaves, rags, wool scraps, sometimes oyster shells. The rich might use a small cloth, washed and reused. The poor, sometimes nothing. So you learn to avoid shaking hands with strangers, and don't be shocked if someone fresh from the bathroom grabs your hand to invite you to dinner. In your hut, if it's too stormy to go outside, you handle it inside, into the bucket, a small trench leading out, or, on especially cold and lazy nights, a clay pot under the bed. Can you imagine the morning smell? Even you don't dare breathe deeply. Washing up? Wait for later. Hand hygiene? Far from a habit. Soap is rare, expensive, and harsh. Main cleaning agents are ash or homemade lye water. You dip your hands in dirty water to wash off what you just produced, then use those hands to grab food. No tap water, just buckets from a stream or well, often contaminated by the same stuff you dumped on the street. The waste cycle isn't metaphorical, it's literal. And if you haven't had diarrhea, malaria, dysentery, or cholera, you just haven't lived long enough. In Tudor times, using the bathroom isn't a bodily function, it's a journey, a risk, a gamble, a daily ritual performed with fear and no glory. And if you're not careful, step wrong, slip, or misspeak, you don't just fall into dung, you fall into the end of dignity. So next time someone says the past was simpler and purer, smile lightly, then picture them squatting on a wooden bucket in the yard, freezing, stared at by rats, holding a leaf, and desperately shouting Gardiloo. You just managed to dump the waste without splashing your feet, a small victory in Tudor peasant life. Now your stomach growls like a Royal Army trumpet, but don't expect much. If you're picturing boiled eggs, grilled sausages, or warm bread with strawberry jam, you're in a fairy tale. This is post-Henry VIII England, where everything, even hunger, can be taxed. You squat by the fire, where your mother or wife stirs something in a blackened, dented, never-washed cast-iron pot. It's pottage, the poor man's staple, the spiritual ancestor of every fill-your-stomach-but-can't-swallow dish. It's a desperate mix of water, turnips, some oats if you're lucky, and whatever wild greens you scavenged yesterday. If it rained, the pottage might include worms. Sometimes worms are the most protein-rich part. The pot is never emptied, just cooked again. More water added, more greens tossed in. Week after week, there might still be bits of cabbage from your grandmother's wedding. You lean in, scoop a gloopy, greyish sludge with a wooden spoon just pulled from the ashes, like diluted mud mixed with dishwater. It's warm enough not to burn, but hot enough to kill any dreams. The smell? Like a sweat-soaked rag infused with onions. The taste? Exactly as you'd expect. Bland, watery, with an aftertaste of history. Beside the pottage is a piece of bread, but bread is a cruel misnomer. It's not soft, fragrant, or golden. It's a rock-hard lump of coarsely ground rye or barley, sometimes mixed with sawdust, tree bark, or even dirt, if the household is desperate and the baker too creative. Biting it is a survival game for your teeth. It's weapon-grade hard. It doesn't chew you. You chew it. After a few cracked teeth, you dip it in the pottage, only to find that after 3 minutes, it's still intact and harder than before. You look around. No one complains. There's nothing to compare it to. Everyone eats like this. Some kids prefer gnawing actual stones for the mineral taste, but you have no choice. Hunger waits for no one, and time doesn't either. Alongside the sad pottage and angry bread, you get a mug of small ale, a nearly non-alcoholic brew made to replace water, which is often full of worms, dung, and dead rats. It smells like wet straw fermented in a forgotten bathtub. The taste? If you've ever sipped spoiled rice water, left overnight in a clay jar, you're close. Kids drink it too. No one in your village thinks boiling water is necessary. You just need to survive. Each sip reminds you you're in an era where medical knowledge stops at faith kills germs. Fruit? Sure, if it's autumn and you beat the worms to an apple. Otherwise, fruit is a luxury for offerings, cider, or rotting in noble hands. Spices, salt is locked in a chest. Pepper's worth more than gold. Cinnamon? You can't even pronounce it. Picture eating bland pottage, biting rock bread, and washing it down with warm ale. That's your daily culinary experience. Some days, you're thrilled to find something unusual in the pottage. Turns out, it's a fly. Everyone ignores it. Flies aren't worth complaining about when you've eaten glowing moldy bread. Yet, you eat, because it's all you have. Your body survives, though your spirit feels dragged back with each bite. Breakfast doesn't energize. It just exists. You accept it as inevitable. If you don't eat, you'll faint in the fields. And if you faint, no one drags you back. They'll glance, say he's weak, and keep plowing over the spot you fell. That's Tudor nutrition. Eat to not die, not to thrive, not to enjoy, just to keep breathing a little longer. And now, with the pottage gone, the bread untouched, and the ale just enough to make you need the bucket again, you stand. The day's just beginning. The work piles up, and the hunger stays. You finished your pale pottage, rock bread, weak ale, breakfast, and are ready for the day, at least in theory. In reality, your body's shivering and itching so much you want to roll into the fire's ashes for warmth. But before facing the fields, you must dress, meaning put on the only outfit you own. Not because you haven't washed the others. There are no others. Welcome to Tudor times, where the poor don't change clothes, but wear them until they disintegrate or walk away on their own. Your outfit is a thick wool tunic, rough as steel wool, but inedible, stiff as a urine-soaked rug, and heavier than memories of a cleaner life. It was once brown, grey, or maybe green. Now it's a mottled mess, where colours, sweat, and dirt fight for dominance. No buttons, no zippers. Just a big hole for your head and sleeves torn to the elbows. Inside, if you're lucky, there's a linen lining. You'd call it underwear if it weren't ripped in sensitive spots from 3 seasons ago and never mended. Underwear is a luxury in your world. Most don't wear it. Sweat, insects, dung, and skin form a complete biological coating. In summer, sweat glues the tunic to your skin like a Tudor Misery brand label. In winter, it hardens like iron armor, freezing but still letting wind sneak through the torn hem. You've worn it through every weather, harvest, and burial season. And the smell? Imagine soaking it in mud all rainy season, wringing it with pig-fat hands, drying it in a goat pen for 2 weeks, then wearing it, sweating daily and nightly. No washing, no airing. No one complains. Everyone's the same. In the village, human odor is normal. If someone smells good, they're either noble or a witch. Both are suspicious. You're a walking blend of dust, kitchen smoke, dried urine, and ancient stench. Washing clothes is a luxury of time and resources. You'd need to fetch well water, boil it, if you have firewood, soak the tunic in ash and homemade lye from urine for disinfection, then beat it on a rock, rinse in cold water, and hang it on a rope between 2 lightning-struck trees. The process takes a day, and the tunic stays dirty and still smells, so you wear it forever, until it frays, tears, falls apart, and becomes a collection of holes held together by survival instinct. Shoes? Depends on luck. If you have them, they're rough, untanned leather, tied with hemp cords, soles so thin you feel every pebble, chicken dung speck, and cracked earth. If not common, you go barefoot through scorching summers and freezing winters, stepping on thorns, dung, sharp rocks, and sometimes bones from old wars. Your feet swell, crack, callous, and sometimes stop feeling. That keeps you going. Each morning, as you don this outfit, you're not just wearing fabric, you're wearing a history of grueling labor, cold nights, fevers, hunger, and scratches from bedbugs. The tunic becomes a second skin, not protective, not beautiful, definitely not memorable. Someone said, "Clothes make the man." Here, clothes prove you have no virtue, no money, and no time for style. You don't choose fashion. You wear what's least destroyed. For festivals, you might borrow your father's old wool coat, dead from cold 4 harvests ago, hoping people think you have taste. They'll think you're dying, or just crazy enough to wear 2 layers. All day the tunic collects water, dung, chicken blood, sweat, then dries on you. It shrinks in the sun, puffs in the rain, and never softens. At day's end, when you lie on the straw, it clings to you, not like a lover's embrace, but like a cloth coffin, slowly tightening. You close your eyes, breathe lightly through the moldy fabric, and know tomorrow you'll wear it again, because you have nothing else, and it tattered, stinking, offensive, outlasts your hope for an easier day. You just gnawed a piece of bread, hard as ancient limestone, jaws aching, feeling each crack in teeth already loose since last autumn. Pain, sharp, numb, but you're not surprised. In Tudor times, teeth aren't for keeping. They abandon you like relatives when your turnip jar runs dry. You've never known a toothbrush, never heard of toothpaste. If someone mentioned oral hygiene, they'd be mad, a monk or a French noble with too much free time. You wake up, scrape plaque off your gums with a fingernail, and rinse with warm, murky water from a jar where flies hold nightly raves. If luckier, you grab a small twig, chew it soft, and rub it on your teeth. They call it a primitive toothbrush. You call it a fate scratcher. Of course, that twig was used to shoe dogs, stir pottage, or clean feet, so cleanliness isn't up for debate. After years of chewing moldy pottage, biting rock-hard bread, and drinking foamy ale from moldy wooden barrels, your teeth look like a bombed-out fence, gapped, broken, crooked, and black as hearth ash. Every conversation is a smell showcase, leftover food, fermenting bacteria, and painful memories. People avoid your mouth not out of politeness, but fear their soul might flee if they catch another whiff. Your gums are swollen, blackened. They bleed when you bite anything harder than pottage. Your breath could strip a chicken's nose feathers, but you're not unique. Everyone in the village is like this. If someone flashes white teeth, rumors fly they've made a deal with the devil. Kids lose teeth before they can speak full sentences. By 20, you can count your remaining teeth on one hand, with fingers to spare. What if it hurts too much? You endure, pray, drink ale, wait to see if it's tooth decay, gum disease, or death. If it's unbearable, you visit the village's only medical expert, the barber. Yes, the head shaver doubles as a tooth puller, with a giant pliers, a dirty rag to bite, and a cup of murky wine beforehand. No anesthesia, no sterilization, no questions. He sits you down, holds your head like a chicken for slaughter, and yanks the tooth like pulling a live turnip. You scream. Blood sprays. Afterward, you either live or die days later from bacteria spreading through your blood. Many die from tooth decay. Not a misprint. A small hole in a tooth can lead to fever, infection, rotting flesh, then death. And usually death isn't gentle. It comes after days of moaning, swollen face, crossed eyes, and no one approaching because you smell like a sun-baked buffalo corpse. If you're a noble, it's not much better. You eat more sugar, seen as edible cosmetic, and your teeth fall faster than a peasant's. The difference? Nobles wear dentures of ivory, wood, or dead people's teeth. Picture a duke grinning with yellowed, misaligned teeth, sticky with apple jam, smelling like sheep dung. That royal smile once made an entire court faint. That's why few smiled. Not from sadness, but because smiling was a public hazard. You live knowing today's aching tooth might be the first part of you buried, and you can't brush to save them. Bacteria knowledge doesn't exist. They believe illness comes from bad air, bad blood, or dreaming about your neighbor's wife's backside. All lead to the same pain, stench, and bleeding when you smile. So you eat slowly, softly, avoiding anything crisp. You sip pottage like a cat lapping water. Avoid hard chewing, wide mouths, or too much talk. Not for manners, but fear of breaking your jaw again. Your teeth, literally, are plotting against you, and you know it, but you have no choice. No dentist, no toothpaste, no floss, no hope, just a mouthful of crisis and a life of merciless meals. And if you smile in a rare moment, know you've just revealed a piece of Tudor's most painful legacy, a jaw heading back to dust. The sky hasn't yet brightened. Outside, fog clings to bare tree branches, like spiderwebs draped over corpses, and the rooster's crow rings out like a curse summoning souls, not to wake you, but to warn you. You crawl out from the damp straw pile, lifting legs stiff as frozen logs, instantly feeling your body ache as if trampled by a horse cart. No time to complain. The sun hasn't risen, but work awaits. No alarm clock, no coffee, no moment for yourself. You slip back into the moldy tunic, stiff as tree bark, tie a rope around your waist for a belt, and shuffle out of the hut like a grey shadow of yourself. The fields are where you live. Breathe, sweat, and hope not to collapse from a minor mishap like a sprained ankle. or stepping on a rusty nail. First task of the day, plowing. If you have an ox, great, meaning the ox is so skinny you plow alongside it, pushing from behind, praying it doesn't keel over. No ox? Congrats, you're the ox. You bend down, hands gripping the wooden plow, teeth clenched despite swollen gums, and start carving long furrows into soil, hard as iron and sticky as glue. Wind cuts through your torn tunic, carrying the stench of manure, sweat, and last year's rotting harvest. Each step is a challenge. Each swing of the hoe is a sigh from your spine. And whenever you pause to breathe, your father, or the landlord, reminds you with a simple line, no one eats if the land doesn't breathe. After plowing, you sow seeds. No seed spreader, no measuring tape. Just your hands, oral wisdom from generations that starved, and a flock of hungry birds perched on branches, waiting. The moment you turn, they swoop like thieves, devouring the seeds you scattered into the soil, like tossing hope into a pit. Next comes reaping, watering, weeding, harvesting, all done by hand, by back, by fingers swollen from thorns and insects. No gloves, no bug spray, no one cares. You work all day, under scorching sun, or in cold rain, wind slicing your skin. Your hands carless, your back curves like a sickle, your feet stay caked in mud that clings like blood, seeping to your toenails. At noon, you get a break for a few minutes. Lunch is leftover morning pottage, cold and lumpy, carried in a clay pot. You sit in the field, back against a tree, eating while watching the sky, praying rain doesn't come, because if it does, the soil floods, seeds rot, and the harvest is ruined. Then you stand, resume hoeing, threshing, hauling water from a well hundreds of yards away to water dying vegetables. And if you're a woman, you don't just do all this, but also care for kids, cook, wash clothes, tend chickens, mend tunics, and deliver the neighbor's baby if she goes into labor. The work never ends. As the sun sets, you're still not done. You gather firewood, fix broken fences, the bolts to its stall, peel the rag off your foot to check for new wounds. Your hands tremble from cold. Your back feels like needles pierce each vertebra. You're hungry, a familiar feeling, like an old friend patting your shoulder, reminding you, no matter how much you work, food won't increase. Most of your harvest goes to the landlord, the church, or taxes, with no explanation why you grow it, but can't eat it. You plant barley, but don't brew ale. You raise pigs, but don't eat pork. You catch fish, but the Lord's lake is off limits. You make the bread, but only eat crumbs that fly off when someone cuts too hard, and if you collapse from exhaustion, unable to work, you're replaced. In Tudor society, there's no room for weakness, no sick leave. No one cares if you're feverish, have a broken bone, or lost a loved one. The land needs plowing, weeds keep growing, and your stomach stays empty. If you stop, your family starves, and if they starve, they look at you with eyes of pity, anger, and despair, not because they blame you, but because they have no other choice. When night falls, you drag yourself home, a walking corpse, feet numb, hands shaking, clothes wet, and caked in mud. You lack the strength to eat, the spirit to talk. You collapse onto the straw, inhale the damp blanket's stench, and pass out. Not to rest, but to prepare for a day, identical to today, because this is your life. Not one day, but a lifetime. A loop of labor, hunger, cold, and hope thin as ash on an empty pottage pot. You work from rooster's crow until darkness swallows the fields, and tomorrow you do it again, because if you don't, you starve, and if you do, you just die a little slower. You think after a day of grueling labor, you at least get to rest warmly at home. Wrong, utterly wrong. Your home, if you can call it that, is a box of dirt, wood, and rotted hope. No insulation, no glass windows, no proper stove, just wind, mud, and gaps wide enough to wave at moles outside. When winter hits, everything freezes. Water in the jug turns to ice. Your breath forms white clouds, even sitting by the fire. You sleep curled in damp straw, wrapped in a moldy wool blanket, praying your nose doesn't fall off by morning. Your fingers and toes crack, turn purple, and sting like needles when you try to move them. You have a kitchen, a dirt pit with half-burnt coals, but firewood is rarer than pork. To get wood, you trek to the forest, gather fallen branches, and pray you're not caught. The forest belongs to the Lord. Stealing wood can mean fines, beatings, or worst case, a severed ear. So many nights, you shiver, not just from lack of wood, but from fear of dying of cold or dying by law. Each winter morning, you wake in a tomb-cold hut, surrounded by family trembling, wheezing from coughs, some possibly dead overnight, unnoticed because everyone lies still as corpses. You don't dare wash your face, the water's too cold. Touching it cracks your skin, draws blood, risks infection. No one talks in the morning. Lips are chapped, stiff as bark, painful to move. Everyone just stares with hollow eyes, wondering who won't wake tomorrow when snow falls. If it does, don't expect romance. It leaks through the holy thatch, melts and drips on your head like nature's mockery. And just when you think it can't get worse, summer arrives. Another nightmare. Your roof turns into an oven. Sun pours down like fire. No breeze, no fan, no cooling, except opening doors, inviting flies, mosquitoes, and nosy neighbors. You sweat buckets, but can't strip your tunic for fear of being called shameless or getting sunburned raw. Your thick wool clothes become a portable sauna. Skin reddens, back soaks, armpits, thighs, wrists turn into nests of fungus, scabs and stench. Insects breed like mad. Flies buzz over food. Mosquitoes bite day and night. Fleas hop from dog to human, human to pillow, and back. You can't sleep for itching. Can't scratch because your hands are swollen. In the house, heat makes yesterday's pottage evaporate halfway without reheating. The stench of animal dung mixes with human sweat, forming a toxic fog you breathe. Kids cry. Adults snap. Chickens lay eggs in corners. Pigs squeal like they're being slaughtered from the heat. And you, amid it all, just open your eyes, wipe sweat with an ash-stained sleeve, and keep existing. Summer evenings you think it'll be cooler. Nope, the heat lingers. Air thickens. You lie in the dark, hearing flies buzz by your ears, your grandmother fanning with a banana leaf, your father snoring like a saw in hell. You roll over, feeling your back stick to a skillet-like straw bed. You dream of the sea, then wake to realize it's a puddle of your own sweat. You sigh, knowing tomorrow continues. Your house isn't safe. It doesn't block rain, wind, hold heat, or cool you. It's a rotting shell, just enough to distinguish you from the goat in the yard. At least the goat can scratch its back with its horns. You have cracked mud walls, a leaky thatch roof, and seasons that want to kill you. Slowly, relentlessly, legally. You stay there daily, not because it's good, but because there's nowhere else to go. In Tudor times, a house isn't for living. It's where you wait to die, in freezing cold, burning heat, or the decay of your own life. You think childhood is afternoons of play, laughter under trees, sweet pastries, and bedtime stories. No, there's no childhood in Tudor villages, just wind, mud, duties, and hoes bigger than you. You start working the moment you walk, without falling into chicken dung. By 5, you're fetching water, gathering wood, chasing geese, cleaning stalls. These are survival skills, not games. If you don't work, someone else must. If no one does, the family starves. Your mother doesn't say, "Study hard to become a scholar." She says, "Grab the hoe, don't stand there like a ghost caught you." Village kids are unpaid labor. No toys, just tools, a broom of twigs, a broken shovel, a stick for whacking rats in the granary. No books, no pens, no reading. The only kids who write are nobles' sons or monastery boys, copying scripture in rooms cold as graves. You learn by watching your parents and mimicking. Quickly, you master washing baskets with mud, lighting fires with wet straw, trimming plants with blunt knives, carrying water without spilling half. Your hands redden, feet harden, back curves by 8. In cold, you head to the fields. No gloves, breath steaming, teeth chattering like war drums. In heat, you shed shoes, if you have them, wade through mud, cut grass, herd cows, scratch endlessly from horsefly bites. Tudor kids know hunger early, know to take less food than adults, give up blankets for guests, stay silent when parents fight over taxes. No one comforts your tears. They say, crying doesn't grow turnips. You don't ask why the sky's blue, why bread's hard, or why your mother's always tired. You learn life is what it is. Ask too much, and you might get hit or labeled odd, making you unmarriageable later. No school. Schools are 5 miles away, and you're busy watering pigs. You've never held a book, rarer than soft bread, worth more than your life. Every letter you've seen is on church walls, or in Latin scriptures, read by priests in tones like summoning spirits, unexplained. To you, letters are magic. For God, priests, nobles, not for a potato digger like you. But ignorance doesn't spare you sin. It makes you the easiest to condemn. You can't read the Bible. You don't know which verse says fear God or no fish on Wednesday without confession. You rely on others' words. If they say, wear a straw hat for God's forgiveness, you do. If they say your pig died because you skipped mass, you nod and take the punishment. Ignorance doesn't save you. It throws you into the pit of heresy unaware. One day, you cough loudly in church, doze during a sermon, or innocently ask, why didn't the Virgin Mary marry? Suddenly, you're summoned, interrogated, the village staring like you're the devil reborn. No proof needed, just a reason. You're poor, quiet, or ask too much. The priest holds absolute power. He waves a book thick as a brick, reads passages you don't understand, declares, this one's got wayward thoughts. You're a heretic, though you don't know what heretic means. No one needs you to understand. Just confess, kneel, spill your thoughts, even ones you don't recall, and beg forgiveness. Ask why, and you've just added defiance to your crimes. Neighbors shun you, kids point, adults whisper. Your wife, if you have one, is suspected too, all because you're illiterate. Your only proof of faith is attending Sunday Mass. But one fever keeps you away, and Agnes next door reports you. Agnes, always punctual at Mass, nodding fervently, ready to snitch on anyone missing a sermon. You might be punished by standing in the churchyard 3 days. No food, no talking, wearing a donkey cap, a sign reading Doubter of Holy Law. You can't read it, you just know you're humiliated. And freezing. Passers-by spit at your feet to avoid guilt by association. Kids throw stones, dogs bark. If you don't repent, you could be exiled from the village. Worse, dragged to town for prison, torture, burning, or burial alive, depending on the judge's mood. You still don't know why. Maybe you said, weather matters more than holy days, or why doesn't God make better harvests? Or simply, I don't understand the priest. That's enough. Knowledge is power. Ignorance is danger. You can't defend yourself with reason. You can't read to cite scripture. No laws, only that you're wronged without intent. If you die for a careless word, no one carves a headstone. Headstones need letters. You can only hope, after being buried in a cold corner, someone remembers you were human, not a heretic, not a traitor, just a poor illiterate farmer who didn't know why God let you burn for forgetting to bow to an upside-down cross. But you know this. In that world, ignorance isn't a sin, it's a sentence, and you're serving it daily, in silence, fear, and the darkness of words you've never read and will never understand. You've plowed from before sunrise to when it dips behind the trees, hauled water until your back curves like a question mark, reaped, dried, sifted, threshed, stored, and filled the granary. But when you open your home's grain jar, there's only a handful of chaff and a rat gnawing husks. In Tudor times, you grow the grain, but it's not yours. You plant potatoes, but they're the Lord's. You raise chickens, but eggs go to the church. You make everything, then watch others eat it. Harvest season is when you think you'll reap rewards, after months of toil, but it's just a time to count what's taken. First, the landlord's share, the man you've barely seen, living in a castle 3 miles away, riding through the village like a breeze. No one dares breathe hard around. His soldiers arrive, swords and ledgers in hand, exuding authority. They knock, demand the harvest tax. They don't need your tally. They enter your granary, take what they want, weigh it by hand, and carry it off like picking fruit from their own garden. No one argues. Law favors the strong. Next, the church claims its tithe, a tenth of your yield, though you've never seen a priest plow. They come with soft voices but eyes cold as a hose handle, saying, this saves your soul, but your soul's hungry, your stomach's hungry. After paying, you're left with almost nothing. You return to the granary, see empty sacks, then look at your kids licking their lips from hunger. You split wild roots, dig forest carrots, pick mushrooms, knowing they might kill your family in one meal. But you eat. because the alternative is starving. Once, you hid a chicken under the hut's floor, hoping to make pottage for your sick wife. But soldiers smelled it, dragged it out, made you kneel in the yard, and beat you with sticks for evading produce tax. They killed the chicken in front of you, ate it on the spot, spat the bones on the ground like spitting in your face. You clenched your teeth, not from strength, but because opening your mouth would get you hanged like the chicken. Village elders tell of a past uprising, farmers with hoes and sticks storming the castle gate. They were beheaded, burned, or vanished without trace. Since then, no one dares demand anything back. You live on others' scraps. Your meals are watery pottage, sawdust mixed bread, wild greens, water caught from the thatch. Meat is a luxury. You eat it twice a year, at major feasts, or when someone dies, leaving a chicken unsold. You see the landlord's feasts, wine flowing like rivers, tables of pastries, hunting dogs eating beef, while you, the laborer, gnaw potato peels in the yard. You ask, why does he get that? Your father's cold reply, because he's the Lord, and you're the dirt. Sometimes you think of leaving the village for city work. But who'd feed your kids? Who'd pay your debts? The city doesn't need another illiterate, toothless, hunched farmer like you. So you stay, keep working, keep starving, keep paying. Once, after your wife gave birth, too weak to move, you begged the priest to waive the egg tax for a season. He smiled, said, God tests us through poverty, and told you to pray harder. You've prayed until your knees call used, but God didn't send chickens. You realize, in this system, everything you make belongs to others. You're allowed just enough to not die, because a dead man can't produce next season's harvest. You're a tool, a plowing hand, a shadow behind power. No one needs your name. No one cares if you're fed or starving, just that you live enough to pay, then work, then pay again. If you collapse from exhaustion, they'll toss you to the village edge, throw dirt on you, and put your son's name in the ledger instead. The machine keeps running. You're a broken cog. No one bothers to fix, just replaces. In Tudor times, no one starves from laziness. They starve because everything they make is eaten, before they can even smell it. You're hungry. Not the grab a snack to warm the belly kind of hungry, but the kind that makes you dream of gnawing a roasted pig leg, only to wake up chewing your torn sleeve. Your mind conjures glossy fat, crisp pigskin, the smoky aroma of char, and then you open your eyes to a pot of watery pottage, reeking of fermented turnips. Meat is a dream, and in Tudor times, dreaming alone is dangerous enough. Unless you're a noble, priest, or the Lord's hunting dog, you have no right to eat meat from any creature on land you don't own, meaning nearly all of England. Every forest, rabbit, deer, pheasant, or wild hen belongs to someone with a title, a charter, and armed rangers patrolling. You, a lowly peasant, can't set traps, cast nets, or shoot arrows, not even stare too long at a rabbit without being suspected of ill intent toward the Lord's property. Once you found a deer dead at the forest's edge, maybe killed by wolves. Blood fresh, meat warm, your stomach rumbling like war drums. You looked around. No one, you thought, just a small piece. God, I'm not greedy. Trembling, you cut a slice from its hind, quick as a soul thief, wrapped it in your tunic, and roasted it over coals at home in silence, hiding from your son and neighbors. But the aroma betrayed you. Rangers smelled it, stormed your hut like hunting gold, and found the half-charred bone under ashes. Dragged to the yard, you were beaten with sticks, called a breaker of royal hunting laws. You begged, said you were hungry. They replied, God tests you, then tied you to a post, raised a knife, threatened to cut your hand, but they were merciful. They only cut your ear. You lost blood, meat, and the right to stand tall in the village. From that day, you're the rabbit thief. No one hires you. Your wife weeps, your kids see you as a ghost, yet you still dream of meat. At night, hearing owls hoot, stomach growling, you consider setting a trap by the field. You know if caught again, you'll have no ear left to lose. This time, it could be hanging, because Tudor law is clear. Repeat poaching is a capital crime. Hanging, no fair trial, no lawyer, just the village well's oak, an old rope, and a crowd like it's a fair. They'll watch you thrash, no one intervening. Some chew bread, others bring kids to learn the price of rabbit meat. Think you can raise chickens or pigs at home. Wrong again. You lack feed, medicine, and crucially, Soldiers will demand their share. They say you owe a percentage to the Lord because your pig ate estate grass. Nothing is yours, not even animals raised with your tears. Kill it to eat. Crime. Hide it to sell. Crime. Don't share. Crime. So you live on dreams. Dreams of meat, of dripping fat sizzling on coals, the crackle of browning chicken skin, sinking teeth into tender flesh. Then you wake to an empty stomach, foul breath, loose teeth, and sadness deep as the dung pit out back. Your kid asks, "Father, is meat real?" You swallow, force a smile, say, "You'll eat when you grow up." But you know, if they survive to adulthood, they'll only eat dreams like you. In Tudor times, the poor don't die from laziness. They die because they're forbidden to touch animals running in the woods behind their hut. They're killed for eating what they should starve for. They live in fear, fear of being caught for hunger, beaten for eating, killed for daring to think they deserve meat on their table. Meat is power, meat is privilege, meat is the excuse to hang a poor man and call it justice. And you stay hungry, keep living, keep dreaming, and keep smelling meat from the Lord's Son's wedding feast across the forest, where dogs eat what you'll never touch. You start feeling feverish, your head pounding like a blacksmith's hammer, throat burning dry, and stomach churning like a pottage pot running low. But instead of rest or medicine, you're told, drink some ale, then get back to the fields. In Tudor times, sickness isn't an excuse to stop. It's a sign of weak faith, insufficient work, or eating something that angered God. No doctor for you. Doctors serve nobles. You, a hunchback peasant with empty pockets, get sent to the village's only healer, the old barber who cut your father's hair yesterday. He has no degree, no anatomy knowledge, but a sack of things scarier than your illness: rusty knives, jars of murky brown grease, and leeches, lots of leeches. According to the era's medical wisdom, your body has 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. If you're sick, they're out of balance. The best fix? Drain blood. How much? Depends on his mood. So, when you say, "My head hurts," he shakes his head, pins you to a creaky chair, ties your hands with hemp rope, and slaps a fat leech on your neck. You flinch as its tiny mouth clamps onto your skin, sucking. Blood trickles, reeking of iron. You feel dizzy, and the barber nods like he's admiring art. Sometimes, instead of leeches, he uses a knife, slicing your arm and catching blood in a wooden bowl that once held pottage. No sterilization, no gloves, no care, just blood flowing, and the belief that if enough comes out, the illness follows. You ask, "What if I lose too much blood?" He grins. Then the disease is gone. But often, you're the one gone. Coughing, burn camphor, shove smoke up your nose. Diarrhea, drink charcoal mixed with vinegar. Stomachache, eat wormwood leaves. Sit by a fire to sweat until you faint from dehydration. Boils, hopped with bare hands. Fever, wrapped in wet blankets. Faint, cold water splashed on your face. No antibiotics, no painkillers, no hope, just death's patience waiting at your bed's corner. If things worsen, say a strange rash or you can't breathe, they call the priest, not to pray, but to check if you're possessed. Some illnesses, epilepsy, asthma, even heart pain, are seen as signs of demonic influence. Treatment: tie you up, pour holy water down your throat, or beat you until the demon flees. If you survive, it's a miracle. If you die, it's God calling you home. No one feels guilty. No one sees need for change. One death is normal. A survivor is news. Medicine? Only in cities. Even there, it's made from things like dried fox dung, powdered mummies, or crushed gemstones. Stuff you'd never touch unless reborn a prince. Sometimes, a wandering peddler comes to the village, hawking odd-smelling potions, claiming they cure all. After drinking, some get diarrhea, some go blind, some see ancestors grinning back. You don't dare try. You stick to ale, weak, yeasty, doing nothing but making you sleepy, briefly forgetting pain for one night. Next morning, you're back in the fields, hands still swollen, feet raw, blood seeping through bandages made of rags. You act like it's nothing, because if you stop, you starve, and starvation kills. You know your body's rotting, joints, teeth, eyes, but you have no choice. You just hope you don't fall ill in autumn. Harvest is busy. Or winter, Cold will kill you before disease does. If you die, someone else takes your place. Survivors aren't stronger. They just haven't been bled, leeched, or fed ash water yet. You think of this in the hut's corner, head throbbing, leech on your neck, your youngest asking, "Father, will you get better?" You smile, not from optimism, but because you know, if you survive tonight, tomorrow you'll still go to the fields with a pounding head, unhealed cuts, and faith drained, like the blood in the barber's bowl. You smell your body before you even move. It's a persistent mix of fermented sweat, dried mud, old grease, and something unnameable lingering from last harvest. The smell isn't strange or unusual. It's normal for you, your family, neighbors, anyone within 3 miles. In Tudor times, bathing isn't just a luxury. It's dangerous, even sinful. People believe warm water opens pores, letting disease crawl in like rats into a granary. So, for safety, you keep the natural armor of dust, sweat, and skin oil coating your body. Dirt becomes protection. Dirtier, safer, more sealed, less sick. That's the logic. And it killed the scent of cleanliness and faith in hygiene for centuries. If you decide to bathe, you must heat water, a long wood-wasting process deemed extravagant. Wood is for cooking pottage, not pouring on yourself. You fetch water from the well, haul it in a wooden bucket, light a fire, wait for warmth, pour it into a leaky tub, like dunking your hopes in failure, and sit in it, like disappointment, soaking in sin. You do it unseen, because bathing stirs lust, a naked man, indecent, a naked woman, possibly a witch, someone who bathes often, something's wrong with their soul. The church dislikes bathing. The priest preaches your body is the soul's prison. Don't waste time polishing a jail. Stay humble. Don't obsess over flesh. Don't tend what'll rot in the grave. So, you live with the smell. You call it survival scent. Every skin fold is its own ecosystem. Every tunic, a climate archive. You itch constantly. Instead of scratching, you learn to shift, nudging lice from vital areas. Your head always has lice. You share them with the family. Sometimes you see one crawl up your thigh and wonder, new or old. You don't change clothes. There's nothing to change into. If your tunic reeks too much, you hang it in the sun for a day, not to dry, but to chase evil spirits. Communal baths once existed, where people soaked, chatted, relaxed. Then the church shut them down for breeding carnal sin. Bathing became tied to lust. Bathers had desires. Desirous people were dangerous, so you don't bathe. If you're a woman, it's worse. Bathing means caring too much about your body. If you smell good, men notice. If men notice, bad things happen. And if bad things happen, it's your fault for bathing. Clean women are suspicious. Dirty women are virtuous. After all, angels don't wear perfume. Angels breathe righteousness. You breathe sour cabbage and wood smoke. On big feast days, you might wipe yourself with a coarse linen rag dipped in cold water. You don't scrub hard, your skin's thin as onion peel. After, you feel lighter, not cleaner, but less sticky. Then you don the old tunic, and after 3 steps, the clean feeling vanishes like mist in fire. Kids aren't taught to bathe. They roll in mud, sweat, urine, and grow like potatoes in damp soil. They don't ask why they can't wash their face. They see that the sweet-smelling are shunned, the stinking deemed pious. Once, a city stranger visited, clean clothes, combed hair, smelling like a garden after rain. People stared like he was the devil, incarnate. Kids fled, adults whispered. He was asked to leave before his soap scent corrupted faith. Bathing became heresy. Dirt became virtue. And you, living amid dung and sweat, learned to see it as normal. You don't hate your smell anymore. You don't flinch when a bug crawls up your neck. You fear water. It's luxurious, dangerous, unnecessary, unwelcome. So daily, you live in your own stinking cocoon, imagining a world where bathing isn't condemned. Then you wake, smell yourself, and know in Tudor times, cleanliness isn't next to godliness. It's closer to disaster. And you can't afford to flirt with disaster just to smell less. You call your dwelling home, but it's a mix of barn, latrine, and moldy storage. A flimsy wooden box with thinning thatch, like a dying man's hair. 4 walls of patched green wood, slathered with clay and cow dung for insulation. Work as well as covering a fire with banana leaves. Useless. No stone floor, just uneven dirt, slick in rain, reeking in sun. Stepping inside, the smell hits like a punch from nature. Goat urine, human sweat, wood smoke, moldy straw, and maybe toddler dung not yet cleaned. In a space smaller than a modern pigsty, you cram every creature. You, your wife, kids, parents, sometimes a spinster aunt, 3 hens, a nanny goat, and at least 2 resident rats. All eat, sleep, cough, groan and breathe in an air mass heavy as 3-day-old pottage. No bedrooms, no kitchen, no rooms at all. Just one space, functions divided by faith. That corner's the bed, compacted straw, with a moldy blanket. Nearby is the kitchen, 3 stones propping a scorched pot. 2. The middle is the living room, the only clear spot to walk, if the hens don't claim it first. At night, adults lie close, kids across feet, hens nestle in warm spots, the goat wheezes in a corner, and rats scamper along beams like evening exercise. Once, you woke itching, thinking bed bugs, but it was your son's foot. Another night, you kicked your wife's head because she rolled into your spot. No one has personal space. No one has their own sky. Every sound, groans, sighs, sneaky farts, echoes like in a cave, heard by all. Privacy is a luxury as distant as reading poetry by a window. You have no windows. Light comes from gaps between thatch and wood, where wind slices your face nightly, and rain drips into the pottage when the sky turns. You waterproof by setting out pots, not for clean water, but to count leaks. Sometimes, water drips on your youngest's head. You roll them over, cover with a blanket, say, "Sleep, you've got wood to gather tomorrow." Rats are official residents. They don't fear you. They know you can't evict them. They eat breadcrumbs, gnaw grain baskets, breed under the straw you call a mattress. You've seen one crawl from a floor crack, eyes gleaming like it's asking, "Room for me." You don't answer. It has as much right as you. Hens perch on beams, poop in pots, lay eggs in old tunics. The goat bleats at midnight, startling everyone, thinking someone died. Your kids learn to distinguish goat bleats from your grandmother's cough by ear alone. No one complains. Everyone lives like this, crowded, mixed, accepting life as a chaotic mess, where animals and humans share every breath. You respect invisible boundaries. Parents' sleep corner, grandfather's night piss corner, hen egg corner, clothes, food, spare blanket corner, a single unlocked, broken-lidded chest. In winter, everyone huddles for warmth, breath condensing on walls, foot odor so thick you tilt your head to breathe, into rain dripping through the roof. In summer, people spread out like they're about to fight. One move triggers a sweat domino effect. Kids cry, adults groan, rats rejoice in a tropical paradise. You hear mosquitoes' wings, beetles gnawing wood, hens jostling, your father grinding teeth, and the fire crackling under pottage, reeking like the past. Sometimes, you dream of a house with private rooms, glass windows, tiled floors, cushioned beds, then a hen kicks your face, and you know such dreams are dangerous. In Tudor times, dreaming is a luxury. A roof is for shelter, not living. Your living space, more like existing space, is a smelly, cramped chaos where every breath needs permission. But you call it home, because outside is colder, more dangerous, and lacks the stench of those you love, though they, the goat and rats, all sleep together. You live in a world where every glance can turn you into a criminal, with a whisper or a disapproving look. Tudor times are an era of fear, not just of disease, hunger, or death, but of an invisible menace lurking: witches. Witches aren't just cloaked figures riding brooms in fairy tales. They're everywhere. The old neighbor with a herb collection, the widow living alone at the village edge, the sharp-eyed girl, or the woman too smart for the village men to understand. And you could be a witch if someone holds a grudge, if you're too different, or just not liked. One suspicious glance from Agnes, the ever-watchful, quick-to-snitch neighbor, can land you in the village square. Here, every suspicion becomes a conviction, every rumor an undeniable truth. You don't need to do wrong, just be accused. It starts with a summons to the council, wealthy, powerful men, really just a group scared of losing control. They question you. Why do you have strange herbs? Why did your livestock die suddenly? Why are your crops failing? Why does your family keep getting sick, or your kids cry at night? You have no evidence to defend yourself. You know nothing of law. You sit, listening, sometimes interrogated, sometimes beaten to confess. If you don't, you face trials, torture without proof, like being thrown into water to see if you float. Float, you're a witch. Sink, you're innocent, but possibly drown. A game ruled by fear and superstition, not reason. You might be starved, beaten, or caged in iron for public amusement. Tales tell of people burned alive at the stake for witchcraft, their screams echoing, terrifying the village, signaling inevitable death. Women are the easiest targets, especially single ones, those with herb knowledge, or simply outspoken. You hear murmurs, whispers behind your back, curses from unknown sources, knowing even your smile or glance can be mistaken for demonic signs. Defy them, and you're shunned, called a fiend, and eventually executed. It's an unwritten law everyone follows. Every villager lives in fear, not just of death, but of being branded a criminal over jealousy, disputes, or personal grudges. Survival isn't just about health, but luck in avoiding false accusations. You could live untouched your whole life, or wake one day chained, tried for baseless rumors. The luckier might flee, or gain a noble's protection, but most don't. And you're wary of others' glances, your neighbor's words, the looks from a man you helped or argued with. You know survival in Tudor times isn't just battling nature, disease, or hunger. It's fighting to avoid becoming the scapegoat of fear and superstition. You live daily, not just to exist, but to avoid being condemned for a non-existent crime. Yet, suspicion hovers like a sharp blade, ready to fall any time, for no reason. And you're exhausted. You just want one peaceful day, free from scrutiny, not labeled as odd. But in this world, being different is a crime, and peace is a distant dream. You live in darkness, in the gloom of prejudice, only able to pray for a miracle, or at least a day, without being summoned to a witch council. Because in Tudor times, no one is truly safe, even if you've done nothing wrong. You can imagine a dark, damp, cramped room where every breath is heavy, the stench of fresh blood and sweat mingling with wet earth. That's where Tudor women give birth, where life and death are separated by a thin, tattered cloth curtain and faint faith in miracles. Childbirth isn't a cozy family event, but a survival battle. No mother is guaranteed to win. No painkillers, no modern operating rooms, no trained nurses, just an old midwife with bony hands, scattered prayers, and a basin of cold water beside a rotting straw bed. Agonizing pain tears through the body. Each breath a plea to God for salvation, or at least less torment. Blood soaks the old dress, seeping into every fiber, signaling life or death. Did you know 1/4 of mothers died in childbirth? 1 in 4, meaning 1 in every 4 women giving birth, never woke again. Survivors often faced lifelong disability, warped spines, endless pain, no operating rooms, no sterilization, rusty knives, and the midwife's trembling hands made every grip a life or death risk. Complications? No help beyond prayers and folk remedies passed down. Sometimes, they used uterus contracting herbs, often toxic, killing both mother and child. Think bleeding is normal. It could signal death, but no one knew to call for help. You lie there, exhausted, no one wiping your sweat, no pain relief, just roosters crowing outside and groans from other women in the same plight. Your baby might not survive the first week. Fragile newborns, born in filthy conditions, easily succumbed to infection, suffocation, or starvation. You hear faint cries mixed with gasping breaths and tears of other mothers. If you're a young widow, it's bleaker. You face not just physical pain, but loneliness, deprivation, and the burden of raising a child alone, while society sees you as a burden. If you don't bear a son, you're a failure, scorned by your husband or his family. You have no voice, no say, often beaten, to learn your place. You learn to endure, to be patient, finding solace only in prayers. The church plays a big role but isn't always a refuge. They preach birth and death are God's will, this suffering a test of faith. Many sought convents, hoping for healing, or at least comfort in cold stone walls. But wherever you are, women bear the most, from birth, growing up, marriage, childbirth, to death. This painful cycle breaks only when a woman dies young, or is remembered as a nameless grave. Can you imagine? A life you can't choose, can't escape, can't complain about. Each newborn brings joy and fear. They might not survive tomorrow. Every birth is a gamble with fate, where victory never favors you, but an invisible force called death. Yet you must bear children. It's the only way to continue the bloodline, to sustain life in a society that forgets you, a tiny link in an endless chain of endurance, sacrifice, and survival. You have no other choice. You're a Tudor woman, giving birth in blood, dirty water, and prayers, amid groans of pain and hopes as thin as morning mist. You're a woman in the Tudor world, a world where you have no control over your life, where from childhood you belong to someone else, forever, like a family heirloom. From birth, your fate is decided by the men around you. Your father sells you to another family as a bride, your more powerful husband sees you as property, and the law won't protect you if you dare speak out. You're not an individual, but a commodity valued by the land your husband owns, the children you bear, and your ability to keep the family from village shame. Marriage isn't about love or choice. It's an arrangement to strengthen power, wealth, and family ties. You might be wed before 16, sometimes younger, just to become a tool for reproduction and labor. Upon marriage, you lose all property rights. Your possessions become your husband's, and you're forced to obey his every demand, from fieldwork to childbearing. The law doesn't see you as a person, but as part of your husband, a part he can trade, sell, or abandon at will. You have no right to resist, no right to demand fairness, and any voice you raise is deemed the wail of an unruly woman. If you defy him, you'll be beaten, possibly starved, or labeled a shrew, a title enough to get you shunned by the community. Your role is to bear sons to continue the lineage, care for your husband, manage the household, and never complain. You cook in a filthy kitchen, wash in cold water, tend illiterate children, and work the fields with your husband until your back breaks and feet ache. You have no time for yourself, no time to learn, play, or dream. Freedom is a luxury you'll never taste. If you're widowed, life doesn't improve. You rely on relatives' pity or work harder to feed your children. Remarriage isn't easy, and you're often seen as a burden or target for gossip, suspected of witchcraft or family ruin. Tudor women live under the control of men and the church. The church teaches your role is submission, obedience, and endurance. You're urged to stay pure, gentle, and discreet, as any oddity is harshly condemned. You're not allowed to learn, as education is for boys and men. If you can read or write, you're suspected, accused of being too smart for your own good. Everything you do is for others. There's no room for personal growth. Often you work harder than men, tending the family, cooking, weaving, farming. If you're sick, you don't rest. You're called selfish and scolded. You're a model for your children, and the glue keeping the family intact. Sex isn't your right, but your duty. You can't refuse your husband, no matter his abuse, drunkenness, or illness. You're a tool for reproduction and lineage. If you don't bear sons, you're a failure, shamed, possibly abandoned. You learn to endure pain without crying, as tears signal weakness, forbidden in a patriarchal society. Any attempt to escape this role is crushed with threats, violence, and isolation. Yet, in chains, you persevere. You love your children, care for your husband, keep the family fire burning, even as you burn out silently. You learn to smile through pain, bow under oppression, and live like an unseen ghost in a man's world. Being a Tudor woman means you belong to someone forever, with no way to change, no escape, no voice. You're movable property, a sacrificial offering to feudal society, bearing the burden of upholding ancient order. In every Tudor tale, women suffer most, but are mentioned least. You're the silent one, the endurer, never allowed to dream. You live, bear children, and die in invisible chains, stronger than anything seen with the naked eye. You live in a world where the law isn't a tool for justice, but a sharp weapon to uphold the power of the elite, those atop the Tudor pyramid, where you're just a tiny number in a ledger. The law isn't there to protect your rights, but to punish, set examples, and intimidate. Steal an onion from a lord's garden. You don't just face a fine or labor, you could lose a hand, a penalty not for reform, but for warning. Lie in a village court. Your tongue might be pierced with a black needle, ensuring every word is strictly controlled by pain. Punishments aren't just consequences, they're barbaric art, symbols of authority, and Tudor law's cruelty. A man could be forced into a scold's bridle, an iron mask with a bar across the mouth, to silence speech or cries. a public punishment for talkative troublemakers. Women might face the cucking stool, a small hanging frame on their shoulders, subjecting them to village mockery for hours, accused of theft, lying, or mere rumors. You could face trial by ordeal, torturous tests the law endorses. For example, plunge your hand into boiling water. If it heals in 3 days without infection, you're innocent. If not, you're guilty and executed. Or you're thrown into a river to see if you sink or float. Sinking means innocence, floating means guilt, but sinking often means drowning, and floating means death on shore. It's a deceitful game where justice is an excuse. If sentenced to death, it's usually hanging, beheading, or burning alive. Public events like a fair. People gather, bringing sweets, ale, wine, treating it as entertainment. Pain and death are staged like a play, to deter and teach others. You could be whipped, nailed, or have your tongue cut for minor offenses, like stealing an apple or disobeying authority. Meanwhile, nobles and judges rarely face punishment, or if they do, it's far lighter. Tudor law protects the wealthy and powerful, ruthlessly crushing the lowly. If arrested, you have no defense, no lawyer, no fair chance. You're convicted based on powerful testimony or suspicion. No evidence needed. Accusations can stem from personal grudges, jealousy, or village envy. A glance, a misplaced word, or being different can condemn you. The law is a web you can't escape once caught. You could be beaten to disability in a dark cell, unknown to anyone, and in court, forced to confess for false mercy. You live in constant fear of punishment, unclear precedents, and the whims of those in power. It's all a power game, where justice isn't the goal but a means to rule, and you, a peasant, a pauper, are just a pawn. You have no choice, no defense, no dream of a fair system. Every day you toil, live in fear, endure needless pain. Ultimately, you could be destroyed, not just by a harsh life, but by Tudor's cruel systematic law. Yet, in all this brutality, you survive, because there's nowhere else to go, no choice but to live through the injustice. You live in a world where every glance can turn you into a criminal, with a whisper or a disapproving look. Tudor times are an era of fear, not just of disease, hunger, or death, but of an invisible menace lurking witches. Witches aren't just cloaked figures riding brooms in fairy tales. They're everywhere. The old neighbor with a herb collection, the widow living alone at the village edge, the sharp-eyed girl, or the woman too smart for village men to understand. And you could be a witch if someone holds a grudge, if you're too different, or just not liked. One suspicious glance from Agnes, the ever-watchful, quick-to-snitch neighbor, can land you in the village square. Here, every suspicion becomes a conviction, every rumor an undeniable truth. You don't need to do wrong, just be accused. It starts with a summons to the council, wealthy, powerful men, really a group scared of losing control. They question you. Why do you have strange herbs? Why did your livestock die suddenly? Why are your crops failing? Why does your family keep getting sick, or your kids cry at night? You have no evidence to defend yourself. You know nothing of law. You sit, listening, sometimes interrogated, sometimes beaten to confess. If you don't, you face trials, torture without proof, like being thrown into water to see if you float. Float, you're a witch. Sink, you're innocent, but possibly drown. A game ruled by fear and superstition, not reason. You might be starved, beaten, or caged in iron for public amusement. Tales tell of people burned alive at the stake for witchcraft, their screams echoing, terrifying the village, signaling inevitable death. Women are the easiest targets, especially single ones, those with herb knowledge, or simply outspoken. You hear murmurs, whispers behind your back, curses from unknown sources, knowing even your smile or glance can be mistaken for demonic signs. Defy them, and you're shunned, called a fiend, and eventually executed. It's an unwritten law everyone follows. Every villager lives in fear, not just of death, but of being branded a criminal over jealousy, disputes, or personal grudges. Survival isn't just about health, but luck in avoiding false accusations. You could live untouched your whole life, or wake one day chained, tried for baseless rumors. The luckier might flee or gain a noble's protection, but most don't. And you're wary of others' glances, your neighbor's words, the looks from a man you helped or argued with. You know survival in Tudor times isn't just battling nature, disease, or hunger. It's fighting to avoid becoming the scapegoat of fear and superstition. You live daily, not just to exist, but to avoid being condemned for a non-existent crime. Yet, suspicion hovers like a sharp blade, ready to fall any time, for no reason. And you're exhausted. You just want one peaceful day, free from scrutiny, not labeled as odd. But in this world, being different is a crime, and peace is a distant dream. You live in darkness, in the gloom of prejudice, only able to pray for a miracle, or at least a day, without being summoned to a witch council, because in Tudor times, no one is truly safe. Even if you've done nothing wrong, you live in a Tudor village, where misery doesn't make people allies, but often sparks lingering conflicts and envious glares. Everyone shares the same fate: poverty, illness, and pressure from landlords and the church, but instead of uniting, they distrust, envy, and are ready to crush each other with rumors or the pettiest acts. A stray chicken can ignite a years-long Cold War, with one family accusing another of theft, and the other retaliating with increasingly embroidered tales. Every trivial matter balloons into endless gossip at the market or by the evening fire. Once, a fight over the well near your house led to horrific revenge. Someone dumped waste into it, leaving the village without clean water in the scorching summer. Families formed factions, small groups opposing each other, with verbal battles, whippings, and even fistfights in the village lanes not uncommon. You hear stories of someone hiding another's farming tools, sabotaging chicken coops, or hurling insults that stab at family honor. These grudges don't stop at words. Murders have been settled at the village market, amid the horrified stares of children playing nearby. But the law, as you know, doesn't serve common folk. Such disputes are often resolved with property destruction, beatings, or banishment. And if you're banished, it's practically a death sentence. Outside the village, no one saves you, no shelter, nothing to live on. In the village, trust is a precious commodity, easily lost with one wrong word or act. People live in mutual suspicion. No one truly trusts another, and loneliness becomes an essential flavor of Tudor rural life. You learn to stay silent, avoid nosy neighbors, and keep distance from those with bad reputations or envy. A small mistake can make you the target of gossip, then shunned. No invitations to mass, no loaned grain, complete isolation. Isolation in a society where everyone needs each other to survive, yet is ready to turn their back when it suits them. Envy and jealousy turn the village into a small arena where hearts are harder to predict than the weather. You could be the hardest working, most honest person, but if a few powerful people dislike you, they'll make your life miserable until you have no place left. As for you, you live with the constant fear of slander, accusation, or false charges. Once a rumor spreads, you spend a lifetime quashing it, with no help. But no matter how bad things get, the Tudor village is where you belong, where you grew up, where you love and suffer, a place you both long to leave and can't abandon, a place full of conflicts, unhealed wounds, and burning memories you can't forget. And you know, no matter what you do, how hard you try, you'll always live in the vicious cycle of misery and mutual hatred, a cycle as endless as your life. You grow up in a world where dreams aren't fairy tales told to lull children to sleep, but a luxury, a reckless act that could cost your life. In Tudor times, dreaming is not for the poor, not for calloused hands toiling in the fields, not for eyes blurred by dust and tears. You're not allowed to think of escaping poverty, to imagine grand castles, full meals, or clean, beautiful clothes. Dreaming is a privilege of the elite, those with power and wealth, not for those scraping by day to day. If you dare dream, you're seen as a rebel, ungrateful, a potential seed of chaos. They say dreamers ignore reality, create illusions, and will be punished for their naivety. You learn to keep your dreams silent, even within your heart. You know that speaking them aloud brings mockery, labels you a foolish dreamer, and could get you accused of heresy or rebellion. Tudor society values stability and order above all. That stability depends on everyone accepting their place, doing their work, and not desiring too much. A dreamer is a threat, capable of inspiring others to rebel, challenge authority, or disrupt the social order, and that order is guarded at all costs. You feel crushed in the rigid mold of fate and society. Dreams of a better life become a smoldering pain. one you hide deep in your heart, because if not, it will kill you faster than hunger or cold. In your mind, you picture distant scenes, places you've never seen, roads free of mud and animal dung. You imagine wearing clean clothes, shoes, eating your fill, being respected, not scorned. But these are mere flickers in the dark. Each time you nearly voice those dreams, you remind yourself to stay silent, clamp your mouth shut, and bow your head to work. You can't share your hopes with anyone, for doing so brings criticism, threats, or ostracism. In the village, the stories of dreamers often end with them labeled mad, isolated, or sent to asylums, places that confine and torture those who defy societal norms. You also fight your own heart, your fears and doubts. You ask yourself, are these dreams worth the risk? Should I hold on to hope or accept my fate? But you have no answers. You only know life doesn't allow time for unrealistic thoughts. Every day, you face harsh realities, grueling work, hunger, cold, illness, and oppression. Those are enough to break you without adding distant illusions. Yet, in rare moments standing by the field, gazing at the far horizon, you can't help but dream. You see yourself walking through lush fields, free of dung, rats, and mud. You see yourself in clean clothes, laughing with loved ones, free from fear of disease or violence. And you know, though dreaming is forbidden, that dream lives in you, a tiny flame keeping you from extinguishing amid hardship. But you hide it well, because dreaming is a luxury, and you have no right to luxury. You only have the right to exist and work until you die, in the shadow of dreams that never come true. Death is a constant shadow trailing your every step, from the dry cough at season's start to the clumsy fall of a hoe in a sweat-soaked field. In Tudor times, life's fragility isn't poetic rhetoric, but a brutal truth slapping you daily. A lingering cough, untreated, could signal tuberculosis, a disease killing thousands with no known cure. The hacking keeps you awake, exhausts you, and soon your strength fades until you can't stand. No medicine, no doctors, just folk remedies, and the priest's prayers, mere gambles with death. Field accidents are routine, no villager escapes them. A misaimed hoe, a slip in mud, a stray stone in the grass, all could mean sudden death. You might get struck in the head, break a leg or arm, with no proper treatment. Minor injuries turn septic, fester, rot, spreading through your body to a painful death. You're not allowed rest. You must work for the landlord, your family, the hungry child watching with hopeful eyes. If you fall ill, no one truly cares for you. Family is too busy, neighbors fear contagion. You wrestle fate alone, with pain and fear flooding your mind. Plagues lurk. Death comes unannounced. You hear tales of pestilence, influenza, fevers sweeping villages in days, claiming dozens, even hundreds. Survivors are dubbed witches or cursed for outliving disasters, no one knowing why. Every event, every death, is seen as God's punishment for village sins, so no one dares ask why or how, only praying and fearing. There's no escape. Cities aren't safer than villages. Prisons, poverty, disease, and violence await everywhere. Every choice is a deadly trap, and death is closer than you think. Each day, you face death, not just physically, but spiritually. You see loved ones fade. Children die for lack of milk. Elders lie helpless with no aid. You know you could be next, not because you're weak, but because this world doesn't let you be strong. You dream of life, but no death waits in every cough, wound, or relentless workday, and you accept it. Accept that life is short, and death can come from the smallest things. You'll pass without farewell, no one mourning, no one remembering your name, just a tiny grave, and the echo of a life full of pain and resilience. Yet you live, because living is the strongest defiance against death, and you'll do anything to live, facing it daily. You live in a world where average life expectancy isn't just a statistic but a haunting curse, a fragile line between life and death. Living past 40 in Tudor times is a feat, one not everyone achieves, especially peasants like you, who rarely outlive that number by much. You look around the village, seeing young people felled by disease, cold, accidents, or violence, and you know each day survived is a miraculous victory over death. But reaching 40 brings no privilege or respect. You gain no voice, no land, no societal favor. You remain a poor, exploited laborer, toiling as ever. Old age offers no ease, only prolonged pain, illness, and loneliness. Your body weakens, joint and back pain become uninvited guests, each step a stabbing ache. Your eyes blur, ears ring like unending church bells, and you feel detached from the changing world. Yet you must continue, working, living with pain and uncertainty. No rest, no special care, no one to tend you when sick. Younger people see you as a burden, and you can't object. Tudor society has no place for the elderly. Survivors are merely managed objects, not valued humans with experience. You might hold secrets, pass down knowledge, but that earns no comfort or protection. Instead, you're often seen as a family burden, past usefulness, waiting to die to free others. Many elderly live alone, abandoned in a hut's corner or barn, cold, hungry, awaiting death naturally, or eased out by Tudor society's brutal methods, called helping them pass gently. You know even living to 50 or 60 isn't success, but random luck in a hazardous world. When you die, no one records who you were, save a scribbled name in church ledgers and a tiny unmarked grave. Your 40 years aren't an achievement, but a countdown, a prolonged sentence you can't escape. You think of the village children, some dying before 20. Is it luck or injustice? You can't answer. Old age brings only weariness and profound loneliness. Yet you live, because living is the final stand against fate, the only way to prove you're not entirely forgotten. Even in your last moments, you rise each morning, don ragged clothes, work as if tomorrow won't come, knowing longevity is an unfair gift not given to all. Past 40 is a triumph, but it brings only a worn body, weary soul, and an empty heart. You're a silent victor in a battle no one sees, praises, or cares to remember. But you persist, strive, and that's all you can do in this cruel Tudor world. You die, not a heroic death etched in history, but a quiet one, fading like the last shadow of dusk. No one weeps long, no one builds a monument, or sings mournful songs at your grave. You're tossed into a tiny pit in the village graveyard, piled among others, like makeshift bricks. Your coffin, if you have one, is a creaky wooden box, ill-fitted, reeking of damp and earth. You vanish from this world, but church taxes don't spare you. Even dead, your taxes are collected. See the church levies based on land and crops, not your survival. Your heirs, children, or even unrelated folk must pay in your stead. Death taxes, an absurd concept, but a harsh Tudor reality. They come to your home, weigh produce, record everything, to ensure the church loses nothing from your passing. You die, but your tax debt lingers. If your family can't pay, they face pressure, fines, or seizure. It's an endless cycle, where death doesn't erase worldly burdens. The rats don't care about taxes or your passing. They multiply, gnaw, and thrive in the home you called yours. They don't know who you were, that you toiled, wept, or dreamed. They only know food and shelter. Even as you lie under cold earth, you can't escape their presence. Survivors outlasting anyone in the village, swarming the house and land you left behind. Your death isn't an end, but a new chapter for the rat's survival. Failed harvests and endless village tales. People forget you quickly. Life waits for no one. But worries about taxes, storms and hunger still plague the living. The world keeps turning, relentlessly, in an unending cycle. Live, work, die, taxes, rats. You die, but life continues for survivors, bearing the burdens you left behind. You may pass in silence, no one remembering your name, but your shadow lingers in poverty, cold months, and sighs of those never ceasing to toil and hunger. And the rats, they don't care. They multiply, scamper, and live their small lives in the vast world you once called home. You die, but the world doesn't. And that's the bitterest Tudor truth. Have you ever wondered, in such a harsh world, why those small, weary, hungry, pained people kept living, loving, singing in the dark? The answer lies not in reason, not in history books or power records, but in the deepest part of their souls, in resilience, faith in something greater, and an inexplicable life force. Despite facing death daily, they rose and went to the fields, gripping hoes, sticks, and giving to life with a tenacity that seemed fearless. They lived not for material things, fairness or fame, but for an invisible drive, a desire to exist, to leave a footprint, even a faint one in the mud. They loved not because society allowed it, but because a fragile human part craved touch, comfort, and shared pain or joy, however small. Songs rising in huts by straw-fueled fires were praises of life, a wordless rebellion against fate. They sang to forget pain, to keep life in their souls when their bodies were spent. Music, laughter, fireside tales were how they connected, built community, and found hope in a world with no room for it. And you, reading this, may sit in a warm room, well lit, cared for, not worrying about food or tomorrow. You may have a life Tudor folk only dreamed of, one they'd never attain. You may have choices, a voice, dreams, yet you read their story. People who lived, loved, sang in darkness, unknown. Why? Because part of you is in them, part of humanity unchanged across centuries. It's the life force, the endurance, the resilience surpassing all odds. Their story reminds us that no matter how cruel life is, humans find reasons to exist. And you, reading this, connect to history not just through knowledge, but through empathy, gratitude, and awareness that you're part of a long chain of those who lived, fought, loved, and dreamed before you. You're not just a reader, you're a continué of their story. And that, in an uncertain world, is the most wonderful thing. So, despite Tudor life's cruelty, despite hunger, disease, and fear, they endured, they loved, sang, dreamed. And you, reading their story, do too. You live, feel, and carry on humanity's endless journey of life, hope, and love that never fades. The story of Tudor peasants' harsh lives, grueling work yet still hungry, cramped huts with rats, hens, and goats, enduring filth, disease, and oppression from law and society, offers valuable lessons for modern American life. While we have advanced healthcare, comfortable living conditions, and protected individual freedoms, the Tudor story reminds us that health, hygiene, education, and human rights aren't guaranteed, but must be cherished and maintained daily. For example, descriptions of no sanitation or bathing being sinful highlight the importance of personal hygiene and modern public systems we might overlook. The Tudors' oppression by unjust laws, lack of voice, and vulnerability to false heresy charges reflect the value of citizenship rights and fair legal systems today. Moreover, tales of isolation, envy, and conflict in Tudor villages warn us to build communities based on understanding, respect, and mutual support, not prejudice or jealousy. Though filled with suffering, Tudor life's resilience, faith, and love prove human willpower's strength in any circumstance. The lesson for us is to value seemingly simple things: access to healthcare, education, free expression, and safe communities. We should foster gratitude, empathy, and social responsibility to improve our lives and support those in need, building a fairer, more humane, and sustainable American society. If this story inspires you, and you want to learn more about history's hidden corners, please subscribe and turn on notifications to not miss future videos. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next journey, where history tells us timeless stories.